Thank you, Catherine, for speaking with me today.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Watched the first three episodes. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Well, you've seen more than I have at this point, so it's
It's
nice to hear.
so
Thank you.
good. So good. And you were absolutely fantastic. Your take on her is just amazing and brings such a modern day feel to a period piece. So
Thank
for
you.
me, watching you portray her, was that always how you wanted it to be? Very, because she's kind of a little bit, she's always, I feel like, calculating everything in her head before she makes like decisions. So is that how you kind of jumped to it, or is that something that was already decided before you took on the role?
Well, I think the way that I attacked, this character is trying to find a way to find how she'd survive in this world. Because that's, as certain other characters I've played, Abby's a survivor. And she has to survive and make choices to get by in a world that everything is kind of stacked against her. And she doesn't know who she can trust. She doesn't know what her resources are going to be. She doesn't even know where she's going to get her next meal half the time. And if the person around the corner is going to kill her or be her friend. And as such, we really get to see her processing this world and get to see her intelligence play out as she utilizes the skills that she has from Boston society and applies them to working the room of the West, as it were.
Why do you think she's able to gain the trust of so many of the people from Independence within, moments of meeting them? I feel like everyone she talks to, except maybe the sheriff, she has this I don't know, like a you want to be her friend feel to her. So why do you think that is?
I don't know if that's, the walker spirit that exists in her already, or if that's just by nature of the town of Independence, which I think it's arguably more a function of. Every single person in this town is running from something and looking for a fresh start and trying to find their way. And they all recognize that in each other from various different perspectives. And meeting Abby, a lot of these characters either take her in or find something intriguing about her or help her out in one way or another, or are rather perturbed by her and then end up kidnapping her from a bank robbery. But whatever it ends up being, these characters I'll recognize something in each other, and they're very much building this community, whether they realize it or not.
Is there a relationship that you're most excited for fans to get to see between her and one of the characters this season?
I honestly can't pick one. And that's what's so wonderful about this series is that each and every one of the characters has so many layers and so many interesting elements to them that when you put any two or three of them together, it brings out such different qualities in each character. And you really get to discover so much about these people and about where they came from and where they're going and what they're willing to sacrifice in order to accomplish their goals.
Now, you said it a little bit earlier that this was a different character for you to play. We've seen you in a number of things, and you always, I think, as an actress, have picked roles that have been different from each other. So
Mhm.
for this one, what made this one, when you read the script for Abigail, you're like, I need to play her? What about her made you want to play her?
Well, I've always wanted to do a period piece. So that first of all was something that I've always wanted to really have to step into another time and another place and another world, as it were, in both physical and emotional ways. But the fact that she's a widow and she's a woman in this world that is has so much it's so different from our world today, where women didn't have very much agency, and yet there's this woman who's so well educated and so driven and so out of her time almost, and finding a way to blend the 1870s Boston society woman that she is on the surface with this really interesting, intelligent, fiery woman she is on the inside, and seeing how that plays out as she's pushed and pulled by these elements, literal and figurative, in the
Mhm.
West. It's a lot of fun to suss her out.
It has a lot of, when I was watching it, kind of Dr. Quinn medicine woman feels to it, just because I think in that one, obviously, Dr. Quinn is a very strong female character coming into a new town, and you're playing a very strong female character coming into a new town. And I'm kind of thinking that this show may be that the next generation of it, you know, with her independence and but bringing in such a more modern feel. So for you, if you know, I wouldn't be surprised if you start getting those comparisons. So how does that feel to possibly be going down that same track with the comparisons?
I mean, that's very astute. And you know what? Any series with a legacy, any story that people love that we can, enter the world of or enter the league of would be an honor. It's a genre that is so well known and has so much nostalgia for so many folks. And yet what we're trying to do is sort of reinvent the wagon wheel, as it were, and bring new perspectives into something that is so familiar to so many, to tell a story that is hopefully both heartwarming and fresh.
Well, and so diverse. Your entire
Yeah.
cast is extremely diverse, and you make really no point to make that like a fact, being like, oh, well, you know, our deputy sheriff is an African American, you know, we have an Asian American. And I love that about it, that you do it in little ways and
Mhm.
you make those known, but it's not like in your face. So for you, how does that feel to be a part of such a diverse cast in a period piece like this?
It's brilliant and it's a privilege, because it's one of those moments where we get to shed light on perspectives of history that are often not told, and parts of our world and our country's history that people don't necessarily know about. And it's simply because no one has taken the time to tell those stories, or not on this kind of a scale. And it's fascinating to get to not only learn the history of it, but get to see hopefully the effect of giving voice to those stories and what that will be for the audience. But it really is what we hope to be a more historically accurate version of the West and what it actually looked like.
Did you have to do a lot of research to prep for this role, or was this something you left in the hands of the writers and were like, I'm just going to go off what you say?
I mean, I'm a big old nerd. Of course, I went and did a bunch of research. I found some really fascinating books, all about women on the frontier
Mhm.
and life on the frontier. And you just hear all of these stories about these women that had such tenacity and beat all the odds and somehow survived. The number of stories I've read where women survived simply because their corset stopped, an arrow or held them together or whatever it was. And yet there's such a hardiness and a tenacity and an undying spirit in all of these people that had to survive the West, that built this country. And then other stories of people that weren't necessarily the Western expansion wasn't necessarily a benefit for, and getting to tell those contrasting stories and those contrasting perspectives, and getting to see the tenacity of everyone in that world as they fought to survive and fought for what their sense of justice is.
Now, for a lot of people who have to jump into a Western, whether it be TV series or movie, they have to go through what they call Cowboy Camp. Did you have to go through something like that, prepping? And what was that like if you did?
Oh yes, we went to Cowboy Camp. I thoroughly enjoyed Cowboy Camp, and in all honesty, riding a horse in a corset is actually beneficial,
I
because
was
the way
gonna
it places your
ask if they,
posture,
yeah.
yeah, the way it places your posture, it actually helps. It helps on the horse, at least for me. I don't know, maybe I'm built funny, probably am. But what's so fascinating about it is we not only did we get to bond as a cast, but getting to know your horse and getting to bond and build that relationship as well, and see how that plays out throughout the series, how that affects your character and what that says about your character. It really is an interesting journey. Plus, it's a lot of fun.
Well, for my final question for you today, what are you hoping fans get from the season?
I'm hoping that folks not only really enjoy the adventure with us and the heartbreak and the romance and the comedy and the drama and the mystery and everything that is our town, but also sees it for the allegory that it is of our world today, of these people that are looking to build a world they want to pass on and build a future that they want to see and start their world fresh, just as as all of us are coming out of this pandemic and out of this
Mhm.
situation that we've been in and learned from over the past several years. Hopefully, as our characters build their world, we can kind of build ours.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I'm so
My
excited for
pleasure.
everyone to see it, and I know they'll love it just as much as I did.
Oh, thank you so much. Talk to you soon.